1 minute by the computer. I thought he told me, I just couldn't remember. Yeah. All right. Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for the Lincoln Way Community High School District 210 Board of Education for Thursday, March 16th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance if you are able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Janik.
Here.
Ms. Janice Doyle. Here. Mr. Kirking. Here. Mr. Lacine. Mr. Lucetti. Here. Mrs. Stokes. Here. Mr. Kostick.
Here. First up, we have our student council presidents. Who wants to go first? Fantastic.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Since our last meeting, students have took part in a variety of activities. At the end of February, Student Council planned and set up our winter dance Neon Lights. Over 900 students attended and had a great time. Warrior Way also teamed up with Bring Change to Mind to host a variety of activities for students during their lunch periods on Random Acts of Kindness Day, which included music, t-shirts, and a kindness photo booth. To kickstart the month of March, members of Student Council wrote cards to staff members in honor of the upcoming Teacher Appreciation Week. We are also in the midst of planning other activities to show our gratitude for all of our teachers. We also have a variety of donations and drives going on and upcoming in the future. Warrior Way has partnered with a non-for-profit organization, NAWS, to help collect pet supplies and other essentials such as garbage bags and paper towels. Following spring break, Student Council is holding a snack drive for Gigi's Playhouse, which is an achievement center for individuals with Down syndrome. Winter sports have wrapped up, and spring sports are now at full swing. It is so great to see everyone back and getting involved.
Hi, my name is Alexa Hadley, and I'm from Lincoln Way Central. The nights have been very busy third quarter, wrapping up all of our winter events and preparing for the spring season. Our social science department is hosting SAT sessions before and after school, as well as on Zoom, giving guidance and helpful test strategies for our juniors who will take the SAT on April 12th. Our PPS counselors are helping seniors navigate the final steps of the college decision process, with most regular decision notifications out soon, and many seniors finally making their college decision. Mr. Smith has been constantly updating us on scholarships, opportunities as we look to celebrate our hard work on Scholarship Night in May. In February, Student Council hosted our new dance, The Winter Night, which was a huge success. We had so much participation in our student-voted Spirit Days. My favorite was definitely the Soccer Moms and Barbecue Dads, and our new Winter Olympics. Now, Students Council is looking ahead to our Teachers of the Night event, which we will host next Wednesday here in the Knights of the Round Table. This event is so special. It's a way for our upperclassmen and now sophomores this year to show our appreciation for our incredible staff. Each student anonymously invites a staff member to dinner, complete with gatos, delicious desserts, and super interesting trivia. And at the end of the night, we read a speech about our individual teacher, showing our love and gratitude for everything they have done for us. Last year, I was able to honor Mrs. Parker, and that night was just very beautiful and special to me. And I'm super excited to be able to honor another one of my teachers next week, but it's still a surprise who it is. Our night athletes just finished up their winter seasons. Wrestling had an amazing run, with Nathan Knowlton placing 4th in state and Gracie Guarino as our runner-up. Our girls basketball team were undefeated conference champs and also won their regional. Additionally, Jake Mraz qualified for state for swimming. After a successful start to their season, indoor track is busy preparing for their conference meet and will move outside soon, depending on the weather. And our girls soccer team just kicked off their season with the Windy City Classic. Literally just finished a game an hour ago, beat Lamont, so we're on to the next round. And we're super excited for another hopeful state run this year. All of our other spring sports have finished up tryouts, had their first practices, and are just super excited to compete. And our activities have been just as busy. Mathletes won our regional competition a few weeks ago at JJC and are preparing for the ISU state competition, which will be April 22nd. Additionally, our scholastical team won their regional and are now preparing for their sectional competition. Soon and this weekend, our JROTC cadets will be competing in nationals, so very busy. Also, our Noble Knights had a meeting this Wednesday to make blankets and crafts for our friends at the cottages of New Lenox, and we're hoping to have another visit with them next week. So overall, pretty busy, pretty successful winter season, but we're looking forward to spring and, of course, the warm weather. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Delia Mahmoud, and I'm back with some exciting updates for you all. This semester has picked up significantly since winter break came to an end. After our cheerleading team's long season of showcases and competitions, they've earned their spot at state on February 4th. The varsity cheerleaders are the 2023 state champions not even a month into the semester. Their exciting weekend led right into the long week of our Spirit Days that were in anticipation of this year's winter formal on February 11th. Student Council worked hard to decorate the school for our Dance Beyond the Blue. It was such an active week at East, everyone dressed up for each Spirit Day, and we had a wonderful turnout. 1,200 students dove in to check out See What It Was Like Under the Sea, which was a huge hit. Fast forward to last week, the Muslim Student Association team invited teachers to join them for a Ramadan-style dinner. In the Griffin's Lair, MSA laid out a variety of Middle Eastern foods catered to having a well-rounded meal, followed with a series of segments both educational and interactive to give the teachers an opportunity to learn about something new. Everyone is appreciative, and with Ramadan around the corner, and MSA would like to encourage you all to indulge in some Ramadan festivities like our 26 teachers had the privilege of doing so. Then, on Saturday, Lincoln Way East's very own Dance Marathon held their Disco Marathon event, which in the end raised $7,000.46 for Lurie's Children's Hospital. The event was beautifully organized and, more importantly, for an amazing cause. After the huge wins, donations, and celebrations all around, Lincoln Way East is looking forward to our annual Mr. and Miss Griffin talent show on March 25th. You can buy your tickets now and come watch the thrilling performances of talented students who will be preparing all month long. Student Council is preparing for their annual rural drive, the military ball is coming up, prom planning is underway, and spring break is going to be much needed for our accomplished and dedicated students. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Moving on, we have our technology improvement updates.
Cheryl will be presenting the update plan. These will be covered in action items 11, 12, and 13, but we thought it would be better just to encompass everything at the beginning. So Cheryl, go ahead.
Mike's helping me out tonight with the presentation. Okay, good evening. Tonight I want to provide a brief update on our technology goals for this year and give you an overview of some of our planned improvements. The first technology goal focused on device access, management, and support for our staff and students. A few key notes on this slide. Devices were available for all students during this year, and devices have been delivered for the class of 2027. We're starting to work on the setup now for our summer school students. We have established replacement cycles for all of our staff devices and implemented new applications for filtering websites and student safety. We've also improved some of our internal processes for device management. The second technology goal for this year focused on our infrastructure, our bandwidth, and our security. We've made improvements in this area with new cybersecurity applications and best practice assessments. We have an intrusion detection security assessment that has been ongoing all this week, with results due back to the district early next month. I want to draw your attention to the last bullet point on the slide. We applied for new internet and wide area network circuits with the state of Illinois in May of 2022 and received approvals for these in February of 2023. Moving to the state of Illinois program is going to provide us with some benefits, including additional bandwidth across the district for both our internet and wide area network connections. It will provide a cost savings of approximately $80,000 annually, as the circuit costs will be covered by E-rate funding and a state appropriation. AT&T was awarded the bid from the state, and we will be switching internet service providers from Comcast to AT&T. The circuits will be installed during the coming school year between July 1st of 2023 and June 30th of 2024. And we have applied for an extension of our current Comcast contract to cover the bridge in service. The next slide gives you a visual representation of our network. As I said, we currently have a Comcast wide area network and 2 Comcast internet links. The WAN links for the schools are 2 or 3 gigabits per second, with smaller links for bridges, transportation, and north. Each of the internet links is also 3 gigabits per second. The planned improvements would include increased internet bandwidth for Central and East to 10 gigabits per second, along with the addition of an internet connection for Lincoln Way West. Improvements would include increasing bandwidth between all of our sites. This design allows schools to operate independently, improves traffic flow, and adds additional capacity for future improvements. We will need some additional hardware pieces at West to support a new internet connection. On this next slide, you see the addition of the 10 gig circuit for West that is shown in orange, along with the additional firewall that would be needed. I also included the replacement of Comcast hardware with AT&T hardware. Along with updating our internet and wide area network infrastructure, I'm also proposing some enhancements to our wireless network. We have 550 indoor access points that provide service for our staff and students. These are managed by controllers and authentication servers that are currently housed at both Lincoln Way Central and East. Those are the green boxes on the slide for you. Tonight, we will be proposing adding additional infrastructure at Lincoln Way West to mirror the configuration at the other two schools. Benefits of this will include improved traffic flow, resiliency, and redundancy on our network. That brings us to our action items. Tonight, we are going to have 3 proposals for you: a firewall and switch update, a wireless controller and access point update, and a server and storage update. These action items fit into the district's overall technology plan for supporting the instructional goals of the district and supporting our staff and students. More details about each of these action items is included in the memos.
Thank you. Any questions at this time, or we can hold discussion for action items? Go ahead, Chris.
So when we say they're in the plan, does that include the budget?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, yes.
That's a great question, and in terms of timeline, some of these from a supply chain standpoint, with your support and approval later, obviously Cheryl will move forward with ordering. Depending on when they come, they've been factored into either this year's budget or, if needed, into next year's budget, but they're all part of the 5-year forecast.
A couple quick questions. I know you mentioned the vulnerability assessments that are going on. Who's doing those?
Right now, CDW is working on the security penetration test with us. We did one with Cisco on our email filtering solution, that we have a cloud-based solution, and we did that in the fall, and then I have another one scheduled with Cisco coming up in a few weeks.
Are those all contracted audits that is that an annual? How does that work?
This is the first time we actually contracted for a penetration test assessment, and that was one thing that was recommended by our insurance through Click for something to do. And so this is the first one we've actually done. We have had an incident response contract with CDW, and we have moved to CrowdStrike, which is a new software application that we've deployed across our network to also help with cybersecurity. So it will be interesting what results we get back and what else we can improve on.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question. I saw you nod your head. So there is some type of cybersecurity insurance for a breach or something of that
Yes, sir.
nature?
Yes, sir. We have had it for multiple years. One of the things that Click is doing, and I understand why, is just as that becomes more and more of a prevalent thing, not only are they upping the aggregate insurance across all Click members, but they're also requiring member districts, which I think is a good thing, to pursue these additional penetration measures and up our improvements internally.
Okay, so then the CDW or any of the other firms review or evaluate any of the technology or cyber-related policies as well? Or is that just through the board process?
That's a good question. So we were given 4 hours through Click and some additional time with their contractors to review different topics that were important to us, including that. And policies and internal procedures was actually one of Cheryl and my primary topics for them to look at. So that's forthcoming.
So
Yep.
we'll leave that nugget on the table as well, is that as things become more and more, obviously we're all device driven now and everything like that, that might be an area to have somebody spend a little bit of time. Because it sounds like you've got your arms totally wrapped around it, but it's always evolving, so. Thank you.
Quick question. So you're initiating this starting at Lincoln Way West, is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I said, so you're initiating this whole plan starts at West, is that correct?
No, the plan for the state switchover from Comcast to AT&T and the statewide network will be for all schools.
Okay.
We have hardware in place at Central and East that we'll be able to reuse. So I have a firewall existing here and a firewall at East. I currently do not have a firewall at West because the traffic for Lincoln Way West actually comes across the wide area network connection, and then they get out to the internet through Lincoln Way Central. And the same is true for Bridges Transportation in North. They're using our WAN networks to get to Central or East to access the internet right now.
Thank you.
Do we have off-site, like outside of Lincoln Way, network backup? And
Yes. So one of the things that will be in our server and security update later tonight is we actually have a Nutanix cluster. The main part of our server farm exists at Lincoln Way Central. We do our backups over to Lincoln Way West, and then we have a tertiary backup that is out in the cloud on Wasabi.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to the consent agenda, which includes approval of the regular meeting minutes of February 16th, 2023, approval to hold the closed session minute summaries from June 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022, approval of the payrolls for February 17th through March 3rd, 2023, personnel reports, approval of the District 210 advisory minutes from January 23rd, 2023, and February 27th, 2023, the IHSA membership renewal, the Board of Education scheduled meeting for 2023 and 24. Would anyone like to have anything pulled from the consent agenda for discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved?
I have a motion and a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to our action items. Presentation of invoices for February 17th through March 16th, 2023.
motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $2,744,156.22 dated March 16th, 2023.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? A second and a third. Any questions or discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the invoices as presented. Sorry. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please. Got ahead of myself. Thank you.
The vote is open.
I really am going to miss you, Joe.
The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the treasurer's report for February 2023.
Tonight, you'll see some additional attachments and board docs included as part of tonight's treasurer's report. I would direct your attention to the first two files, which are noted with a number 1 and number 2 in the file names. The first is my typical monthly report, which I'll walk through now, and the second provides information about banking and investment services that we believe is timely to share in light of recent banking closures in California and New York. For the monthly treasurer's report, revenues and expenses across all funds totaled $2.4 million and $8.1 million respectively for the month of February. Total cash balance at the close of the month was $22.5 million, and both revenues and expenses are trending on course for the year. The district's blended rate of return was 4.1% as of February 28, and the rate of return for Next Bank, our insured cash sweep account, does continue at this time to match or outpace Treasury bill rates. We're at our cash flow low point and do not have the cash on hand right now to get into any 90-day T-bills, but once we receive more in tax revenue in May and early June, we'll take a look at some of those longer Treasury bills, as I believe the Next Bank rate will come down, just like the 30-day Treasuries have. Cash variance for the month was positive $334,000. Local revenues trended higher than historical norms, and both salary and benefit and non-salary and benefit expense categories were slightly lower. As discussed in previous months, we'll ask for board approval tonight of interfund loans between operating funds for cash flow purposes. These are typical of this time of year for Lincoln Way, and we will repay them as we collect spring tax revenues. If you would now take a look at the second attachment, you'll see a brief overview of our financial summary, along with several hyperlinks within that document out to supporting documentation. There is a letter from Fennell Patel, who is the Senior Vice President with PMA, that I think is worth a read. The financial services industry has, as you know, seen its fair share of news. Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank closing. District 210 had no financial exposure in any in our liquid or invested monies to either of those banks. For the banking that we do are all district monies held with Old Second Bank, which handles our day-to-day business, including payroll and bills payable, is collateralized at 110%. And that collateral, just so the board is aware, is based on market value. As for other liquid and invested funds held through PMA and the Illinois School District Liquid Asset Fund, or ISLAF, which this board approves via resolution that we participate in, both liquid portfolios, and you can see the hyperlinks there for the liquid and the max, are rated AAA. And our sweep account is comprised of short-term CDs only and is fully protected through FDIC. As you can see in my investment summary portion of the Treasurer's report, we do keep a larger sum of money in Next Bank right now, and that's the liquidity I talked about just a moment ago. It's a lot of information, but I wanted to provide it proactively. I would be happy to take any questions that you may have. If I am not able to give more specific details or answers tonight, I will, as always, provide a follow-up response after gathering that information.
So I have a question. When you were talking about the Old Second in the security, you said it was market value?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if the market value drops, do they give you the ability to then request more collateral to support the securitization there?
That is a great question. So I'll have to find that answer for you. I don't know. It's obviously something we're watching, but I'll get that answer.
Yeah, just the cautionary tale there is that, you know, the instances that you referenced in your letter, which was very well written, by the way, happened quickly. It was 24 hours, you go to bed, you wake up, you think, oh, I'll look at it by lunch, and then it's over. So, and having the bonds securing the deposits will create some form of safety. However, that's part of what caused some of the challenges there, where the market shifted so quickly. And I know you and I had discussed a couple of those bonds in particular where they were less than, you know, the 10% variance. So I would just ask you to keep an eye on that. I'm not predicting anything, but the other thing is I'd also just want the district to be aware that even though they are in those money market funds, at some point they've got to come back into the system. So when you go to liquidate a fund or whatever, that's just another stopgap to make sure that whomever it goes through, and I believe the Illinois funds probably pass through BMO. It's no longer Harris, it's BMO. Just make sure that they've got the appropriate backing as those funds flow back through, because if something were to happen to one of those institutions, it is at a moment in time.
Sure.
And who's ever got a seat gets to sit down, and whoever doesn't has to go get in line. So just ask you to keep an eye on those two things.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think this is being conservative. I'm not predicting anything, but what we were talking about before is I think some of that Old Second stuff is also custody at BMO. So I just think from the standpoint of, if anything, you might get tied up for a couple of days. So I think diversification would be something to kind of look at, because PMA is using BMO, Old Second's using BMO. It just seems like, you know, that you would want to have a little diversification there.
It never seems important until it happens.
Right.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, I wish, and then, but I think overall, if I can say it, I was impressed with all the checks you had done prior. So you've got it like right there, just keep an eye on it, that's all.
Thanks for the feedback.
Anything else to the Treasurer's report? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the Treasurer's report for February 2023 as presented.
So move.
Second.
Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the student activities report for February 2023.
Student activities report is included in your backup materials. Fund balance is $2,135,294. Revenues of $225,437, and expenditures of $252,125. We have 4 accounts that are in the negative, but mostly timing differences. The only one that won't be covered by the end of March will be the class of '24, as we are putting out our prom deposits at this time. We are asking for board approval for new activity accounts: ski and snowboard club at East, and dance marathon Miracle Makers at East. The ski and snowboard club, new club at East that aims to provide social opportunities on the weekends for students looking to build friendships with current or new friends, are requesting an account be opened to manage the collected funds for trips and expenditures. And then Dance Marathon Miracle Workers Club is a new club at Lincoln Way East that aims to provide fun social opportunities, but also raise money to support Little Reese Children's Hospital. Request an account be open to manage donations, cost of supplies, along with fundraising and expenditures for this activity.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the student activities report? I thought we had a ski club when I was here.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Maybe it wasn't that official then,
They
but I
did
remember
go on a
being
trip. They did go on a trip. I
they
think
did,
it was
okay.
mostly man-made snow, but they made it there and made it back. So,
Oh, okay.
Up
good
to
trips
Wilmot
this
or
winter.
something, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. All right, if there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the student activities report for February 2023 as presented.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion and a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the intergovernmental agreement by and between the Board of Education of Lincoln Way Community High School, District 210, and the Village of Tinley Park.
So this intergovernmental agreement is in your backup materials. This is to allow the Village of Tinley to place radio antennas on the auditorium at North. They use their same consultant as we use for radio traffic. This won't interrupt anything that we do, but will provide them additional coverage or frequency to what they're trying to do. Be absolutely no cost to the district. We've worked with Chuck and worked with our consultant and worked with Cheryl to make sure that this is very doable, and obviously it would be a benefit to our neighbors of Tinley Park. Certainly part of Tinley Park is in our boundaries, so this would be something I would recommend that we approve, and they would be able to utilize a small portion of the roof at Lincoln Way North.
Wonderful enough. I understand if the building does get sold, that we can cancel this agreement on 30 days' notice. and-
Correct.
Is, Scott, they're required to have insurance at the same time?
Correct, yeah. Both parties would be indemnified, and they do have the insurance of, I think it's $1 million.
Okay.
Yep. $2 million in the aggregate. Yes, $2 million in the aggregate, correct.
So with the upgrades that Cheryl was talking about earlier, that's not gonna impact any of their work, anything like that, no?
Is this a permissible use based on the school and what they're trying to do here?
Yes, because this would be, once again, this is a government entity, so correct. Yeah, if it was Amazon, we would have to have some more discussions, correct. It's a good question.
I think they got plenty big enough roof to put
Yeah, they have a
put an
big roof
antenna on
over
it if
there.
they
Did you
needed
say
to.
Amazon was interested?
No.
Sure. Jeff Bezos, if you're listening.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement as presented.
Second?
I have a motion to second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the athletic trainer services agreement.
Our district currently contracts with ATI for athletic trainer services, and that contract expires at the end of this school year. So we published a request for proposals, or RFP. The deadline was March 1st, and we received 3 proposals. There were several specifications and criteria that we laid out, and you can see those in the cover memo as part of this agenda item in board docs. Those were outlined, and this type of proposal is, as you know, the process is slightly different than a bid. Of course, we are very cognizant of cost, but it is not the sole driving factor here, as in quality service is very important when you're talking about student safety. And so we are recommending tonight, based on a review of those proposals, you can see the price point there for ATI, Athletico, and the Illinois Bone and Joint Institute. All 3 companies met the hours requirement, provided the concussion testing services, and demonstrated that they had enough school experience to validate their ability to perform here in Lincoln Way. However, the Illinois Bone and Joint Institute's proposal uniquely included dedicated team physicians for D210 high schools, including sports physicians, orthopedic surgeons, and neurologists. And so we believe that those additional medical supports separates their proposal from the others, and having those resources available for our athletic programs will benefit the safety of our athletes. We conducted reference checks with multiple other high school clients in Northern Illinois, all very overwhelmingly positive. And so this recommendation tonight is to accept the IBJI's proposal with an initial term for up to 3 years, renewed annually. And if approved, we would then execute the formal contract. Happy to take any questions you may have.
So what do you mean by dedicated team physicians,
So
sports physicians? I mean,
primarily
and
football,
wasn't
Chris.
Oak involved previously in some, I mean, the Oak got bought by them, but wasn't Oak involved with something at Lincoln Way before?
Oak has always provided team physicians for football games, both home and away. And this is primarily what this would be, is having that orthopedic on-site home and away football games. And that's something Oak has always provided. And Illinois Bone and Joint did purchase or acquire Oak. But Oak has continued to provide that service. They have been interested in moving into this direction, and Illinois Bone and Joint now works with several large districts similar to ours, and they've entered this area.
Well, isn't that kind of their, they provide that service in the past? Did they charge for that?
No.
That's because they want the students to go there if they get
Absolutely.
injured or whatever. So I mean, that's the benefit to them. So I'm just trying to figure out what the additional benefit is here with IB.
With IBJI,
Yeah.
Chris, I guess, and we didn't ask this question, but if with IBJI now being the managing partner and Oak not being in charge anymore, some of those discussions have been, what is that cost benefit analysis to having that doctor on the sideline? And so I know those discussions have taken place. From a pure dollar perspective, they're within $30,000 over a 3-year period. So I think when you take that and combine that with the dedicated physician at those games, I think that's what it outweighs it. We don't, maybe if you go ATI or Athletico, those doctors stay. We don't know. We didn't broach that subject.
It just seems, I was a little confused by the outlier in ATI in year 3. Like, how can they charge $330 and then go up to $420? Did anyone inquire about what they were doing there? Because that's just, that's so far of an outlier. Because the first year is $60,000 less with ATI.
Correct.
And then that last year just seems, I don't know what's happening there.
I can tell you, I've spoken with several superintendents, athletic directors as we've gone through this process. It's a challenging time in this industry. If you recall, 4 or 5 years ago, we paid for nothing. And so several districts have gone to hiring their own. We did some math on hiring our own if we did it just as some other districts did, and it would have been close to $200,000 per school with benefits, insurance, everything else. So I think your actual cost is probably somewhere between 300 and 400,000 if you're looking at benefits and the total package. But we did not ask why the large jump to year 3.
I have a question. So, when we say dedicated, that was the thing that I was kind of hung up on too as well, is that, is it just for the football games is what I'm hearing? Or
Yes,
dedicated
but-
for all 3 schools, and how many are dedicated?
So the way it would work is, excuse me, our trainers have direct relationships with those doctors. So what even happens today, you know, those doctors get our student athletes in immediately. In fact, our ETI trainers have a relationship with those doctors. And so that's been a collaborative effort. You know, I can, you know, I know several sports where our student athletes have been able to get that immediate referral. So that's one of those collaborative things. The big thing is having that doctor on the sideline in football games where obviously the most significant injuries occur.
Okay, so just a point of clarification. Is this a 1-year contract or a 3-year contract?
The prices are guaranteed, so it's renewed annually. So what we're absolutely locking into is 1 year, but their proposals had to be for 3 with prices up front and renewed by the district annually.
So there is the ability to exit after the first year, if there's a qualitative reason or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a reason for cause to leave, yeah. And we'll need to structure the contract accordingly. That is how the RFP was written, was renewed annually.
So are there any concerns with the service level with the ATI? Because there's 60,000 less in the first year, if that's what we're signing up for.
I don't have any concerns. They've done a really good job for us in terms of coverage.
Have the ADs weighed in on this?
We've had discussions with the ADs, yes.
And are they, I'm assuming they're in agreement with the recommendation?
Yes.
So we'll be reviewing this next year around this time to renew the contract with Illinois Bone?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so what we're asking for tonight, and as you can see in the motion, is you would be accepting their proposal tonight and then directing me to finalize a contract with them. And so the way that we would then write those terms, if that is the board's wish, we would enter into that 1-year contract, and then based on performance, if they're doing a good job, renew that annually. We can have the motion tonight be that direction to me is to make sure that language is 1 year, and is the request of the board to bring it back for a motion each year to extend that contract?
Beth, Joe, Chris, what do you guys think?
They're gone.
I mean, who determines?
Or what I
They would be willing to do it.
It's just, you know,
We have
what's
the
con-
option to bring it back for a motion each
yeah,
year.
what I would recommend if the board would be okay
We
with it
always
from a
would
con-
have the option, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, with a contract like this, especially written with language where, of course, if they're not performing, we want to make sure that we protect our ability. We know they're willing to do the 3-year, and hence the proposal, hence us asking for that price point for 3 years, right? Is that if we make this move to IBJI, obviously neither party wants that to be a 1-year commitment and then make another change. The Illinois Bone and Joint Institute, as Dr. Tingley said, has those doctors. They're committed to us. What I would recommend, if you're comfortable, is if you would approve this tonight, then I would finalize that contract, and if the performance is up to par, that I'm authorized to then continue those one-year extensions.
So I want to make sure, because I think was a little confusing. So the reason why IBJI is being recommended is because they consistently are remaining the same cost for the next 3 years. Because ATI, who we currently have, is that correct? We have ATI. There's 60,000 less right now, but then there's this huge big jump in year 3, which is not making any sense. So there's just some disparity and some things that are just not making.
Yeah, and I'll be honest,
Sense.
this is typical of what has been seen in some of the other districts. Some of the other districts that have gone out to bid have been so outrageously high, they went ahead and went through the process and hired their own. One large school district went without training staff this fall, even during football, as they were going through the process of hiring their own, because the bids they received back were very high. Higher than this. So there's been, some districts have had their employees, went private, gone back. This has been a moving target here over the last couple of years. I also can tell you, it's challenging for them to find trainers that want to work from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock every day, and Saturday morning from 7 o'clock until 1. That's your 40 hours, that's a challenging window. There's quite a bit of turnover, and they're having a hard time attracting and keeping those employees, because that's a challenging time. Our district used to employ our own, where they taught 5 periods, and then they went and were trainers during the day, and they burnt out very quickly. They lasted a couple seasons, and so that we tried that several years ago. That didn't work. I think Athletico, ATI, Illinois Bone and Joint, the 3 best put in bids. We sent them to 5 different companies, I believe, Mike, and the three best put in bids, I think they would all do an outstanding job. We have a great relationship with ATI. We also have a solid relationship with Illinois Bone and Joint. I worked with Athletico at Lamont. That was years ago. They were excellent. So I think all would be good. I think at the price point and services provided, I think Mike and I, in discussion with some of the athletic directors and then a principal that used to be an athletic director, we feel that this would be a good move for our district. But certainly quite a bit more than we're spending currently.
One more question. Yeah. So additional summer services. So this does not include summer cost? The quote?
What it includes is 20 hours a week in the summer. Okay. But then if there's anything else outside the scope of that contractual need, if there's extras, we ask them to provide an hourly rate for that, just so it's known up front.
But our ADs, typically over the summer, we don't utilize Saturday, Sundays. So we try and get those taken care of during the 4 hours, 5 hours during the week.
Yeah. Mike, what was the cost of the current year cost of the ATI contract?
This year's cost is $72,000. So it was a significant increase. And as you can see from these proposals, no one is in that range.
No,
and what was interesting.
I thought you were going to maybe say 200 or something.
No.
I was kind of shocked. Or
so
250.
as Dr. Chinley said, this used to be provided at no cost. Interestingly, one of the things that as we launched this process and as I'm learning more about these services and historical contracts and the price to districts in this area, the escalator, I don't know what word you want to use, but as it's increased, the multi-year contract that we're ending with ATI had significant jumps. And I sorry.
You're both choking up.
It is so emotional.
I was going to say, I think I hit a nerve with
Neither
that.
of us choked up during the technology presentation.
Right. You got us both. Thank you. So the interesting piece, I cannot speak obviously to ATI's business model or their market sector right now, but it's interesting, and I did hear of a similar cost increase in ATI becoming more expensive in doing some of the reference checks, because as Scott mentioned, these are the big three, and these are the ones usually putting in proposals for other high school districts too.
Thank you.
In terms of the dedicated team physician, I know we're kind of talking about that. Students won't be under any obligation to utilize those physicians in order to return to competition?
Well, some of your concussion protocols, yes. But to return to competition, no. If they've got a sprain, they've got a knee or whatever, they can go to their own physician, they get
And they
clearance.
can clear and come back right away?
Yeah, and the concussion protocols depends upon severity, and a lot of times our trainer is very involved in that process.
Okay.
And not to beat the dead horse here, but if I heard earlier what you said, if we brought this in-house, you thought the cost per year would be about $200,000 per school?
It would be between, we're 150 at least. It depends upon the experience. If we hired our current staff, as we're staffed currently, base salaries would have to be in the range of 60,000, plus the IMRF, plus the insurance, which puts you at about 85, puts you about 165 to 180 per building.
So we're confident that any of these scenarios is less expensive than bringing this in-house at this time?
Correct.
Okay, that was my,
Yes.
that was the point I was getting at.
My final thought on this would be that somebody tragically bid this wrong. Either ATI tragically bid it wrong, or IBJI tragically bid it wrong. So I just would ask you, as you make your way through this contract, to make a mental note as to who tragically bid it wrong. Because they both can't be right. One says absolutely no cost increase over the next 36 months. The other one builds in a 75% cost increase over the next 36 months.
You get it, but yeah, exactly. How can you keep your costs level when you have 4 dedicated employees?
Or something's got to give.
Right.
And that could be a qualitative factor is what I'm just asking you to keep an eye on.
Yep. Thanks.
All right. If there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to approve the athletic trainer services agreement with IBJI as presented.
I'll move it. Move.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. That was a little painful. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The motion passes with 5 ayes and 1 abstain from Mrs. Stokes.
Thank you. Moving on to the custodial and cleaning services bid.
Similarly, the district's current provider for custodial and cleaning services is ABM, and our contract expires this June. It did not include any extension language. So Chuck and I published notice requesting bids with a deadline of February 17th. We received 8 bids, and that tabulation is viewable by clicking the link in the cover memo at the top of page 2. We did allow ourselves enough time to appropriately vet the contractor proposals. We held interviews, conducted site visits before wanting to bring a recommendation to the board tonight. ABM has been our provider in this area for over 20 years, and so we wanted to be very, very thoughtful in this area. As Chuck and I went through everything, obviously we are both fresh to assessing this bid and this contract, and we looked at it with those fresh eyes, and we've made some adjustments to staffing on weekends. We added hours in the bid specifications for coverage that would hopefully reduce some overtime we're seeing for special events. Specifics are detailed in the cover memo, as you can see, but I will highlight verbally that 2 bidders, GDI and Alpha, initially appeared lower than the provider that we are recommending for contract tonight, but they were not able to meet all bid criteria. GDI's proposal did not include the same staffing requirements that we requested, and there were discrepancies found in their costing of equipment. Additionally, I know they are trying to break into the kind of public high school K-12 education sector, but they do not right now have comparable public high school experience or enough as we requested that we required to ensure that a new partnership could hit the ground running at our level of expectations. The next lowest bidder was Alpha, and based on multiple site visits of current Alpha reference accounts and feedback from those districts, we've determined pretty confidently that Alpha would not be able to perform the cleaning level expected within District 210, and that was also the case for Alpha in 2020 when this was last bid. We therefore recommend tonight that the board accept GSF's bid as the lowest responsive submission. We've verified that GSF has met all of the criteria. We conducted extensive reference checks, all very positive. And we had great takeaways after visiting GSF cleaned sites. It's our opinion that they share our level of expectation and will raise the bar for cleanliness in all of our schools. If you have any specific questions, I know Chuck can speak in more detail to the proposals and the bid process.
Where did you visit on-site to GSF? Was it schools?
Yes, yeah, schools, St. Charles School District, correct?
St. Charles and Bolingbrook.
Bolingbrook.
And what were the issues with Alpha when you were doing the site visits?
The Alpha site visits were not adequate to what we would expect as a district or as anyone. Their equipment, their service was subpar.
One of the pieces of feedback we received also was about training of employees. There's been short staffing in this sector across all vendors, and they're coming back out of that a little bit. But one of the pieces that was pretty evident with that particular vendor was training or lack thereof for staff. And that was actually one of the strengths of GSF is just their model has a little bit different approach, very heavy in training. And that's some of the feedback we received.
Am I reading this correct, that the current contract is, you said 151, under 51,000, and then the products or consumables that are being utilized is 67,000? So this current contract includes all of that, so we can, are you saying we can eliminate that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of pieces, and what we're trying to explain from the financial impact of it is, so the expiring contract with ABM is $151,000 a month. What that does not include is anything on the weekends or special events that was outside. We did not have contracted staffing hours then, and that was built into this bid. And so with GSF's price point there at, sorry, my screen turned off, 180, thank you, per month. Those extra hours, those extra bodies, on the one on a day porter on Saturday and then 2 on Sunday are included. The consumables and supplies that come to $67,000 a year, that's what this board has approved annually for known supplies, but I can tell you right now that we order more as things come along above and beyond that. Those are now completely owned by the contractor. So with those two pieces put in play, it's an increase, but all of the bids were an increase in that lens. But what I felt good about in assessing the financial commitment was when you wrap in the consumables and consider, right now Chuck gets from ABM, separate smaller invoices for overtime hours and different pieces for the weekend special events that we're hoping, I don't know that I could tell you would be eliminated, but would be greatly reduced for those weekend times. Factoring all of that in, I feel pretty good about the price point on this.
How long has ABM been doing the service?
20-plus years.
Any issues during the 20-plus years?
Yes, as of these last 2 years, they have not done a very good job, Joe. And in my reports, when I asked the staff members for feedback, that's been one of our primary complaints is the cleanliness of rooms. We've gone to a rotation of cleaning rooms because of their lack of personnel. We've had to bring in, they've brought in subcontracting several times over the last, at most points over the last 2 years, it's fair to say we have not been fully staffed. Would you agree, Chuck? Yeah.
Constant battle of fully staffing the school.
And they've changed ownership and leadership over the course of the last 5 to 7 years, and the service has certainly has changed.
Where's GSF located at? Is it a privately held company or publicly traded?
It's a good question. I believe publicly traded because it initiated in France and then Canada and then the US. It's a very large company. They've been in the US since 1980.
So it's a large.
It's extremely large
Financial
company.
stability's there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was actually part of our criteria, Joe, and that's a good question. We wanted to make sure that the company could stand on its own financially.
They have the employees ready, enough employees hired to take a school?
GSF right now employs over 30,000 people.
They're all not gonna be working here, though.
No, to your point, Aaron, we feel very confident, and especially in a transition in this area. Obviously, they'll recruit locally. And we do feel confident. That was one of my questions from my lens as I called other business managers and we called facilities directors and superintendents to say, what are the strengths? How did transitions go? GSF is building their book of business, and it was training. It was their ability to become and remain fully staffed. They've done a good job, so I feel good about that.
Do you have any kind of an escape clause in these first 3 years?
That's a good question. So obviously for performance purposes, yes. And just like our existing contract now, we can give 90-day notice and get out if dissatisfied. I don't anticipate that obviously and hope that's not, but yes, yeah, yep.
And are we confident CPI will be lower in year 4 and 5?
I'm not confident of much in year 4 and 5 on CPI. I sure hope so, but I thought that was a fair proposal. And that language too, you guys, just as a reminder, is the year 4 and 5 extension is at our discretion. Yep.
So
Sure would.
the weekend hours will reduce costs overall because it's built into this one? That's like a bigger
Yeah,
factor?
I think the point to consider there is you look at $151,000 a month, and then as we bring the bills payable every month, and you see ABM in there, right? And now it would say GSF, and there's going to be a jump.
Yeah.
But what won't be there is the non-contracted extras we're hoping to reduce, and so that increase is really smaller than it may seem.
Excellent. Well, if there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to approve the custodial and cleaning services bid with GSF USA as presented. I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Fantastic. Quad Plus abatement.
In 2019, the board heard and approved a partial tax abatement for Quad Plus. You might remember last year that I brought forth an agenda item. Quad Plus had met all of its requirements, and so the first year of a 5-year partial abatement was implemented. The county clerk, even though there's a board resolution from 2019, asked all taxing bodies to approve specific resolutions annually for each of the 5 years. This is simply year 2 of 5. With board approval tonight, then this is kind of a documentation thing for the county clerk, and then I would bring it back for the next 3 years.
I recall last year when we were talking about this, we asked if they had been meeting the requirements, and we said yes, and we said, how do we know? And we weren't really sure. Are we sure they're?
I am sure. I see the building and I see the vehicles are there, and they're fully operational, yes.
Fantastic. Can I get a motion to approve the Quad Plus abatement as presented?
So moved.
Yeah, second. You have a motion, a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to interfund loan resolution.
As stated earlier, these loans are typical for Lincoln Way at this time during the fiscal year for cash flow purposes. All loans requested this evening are allowable per ISB guidelines, and I have personally had them reviewed by the district's auditing firm. Happy to take any questions if you have them.
This is our first interfund loan this year?
It is. Yeah.
Our only one, probably?
Yeah, this is the only one I anticipate. This has been in the cash flow. I know I've talked about the last couple of months. It's been in the cash flow and will be repaid prior to June 30th once we get our tax revenues.
Any other questions regarding the interfund cash loan? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the interfund loan as presented.
So moved?
Thank you. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
That's an easier vote than tax anticipation warrants. I just thought I'd leave it out there.
Yeah, the tone of the meeting's a little slightly different, huh? If only we had 600 people here to listen to us talk about it. Moving on to the student fees. Moving on to the student fees for the 2023-24 school year.
After many years with no increases, we made a change to base registration fees last year at this time. And additionally, as a reminder, the board approved the elimination of individual course fees and that $50 athletic and activity fee for this 2022-23 school year. For next year, our administrative team thoroughly reviewed all of the fees. We feel that they are appropriate at this time with one exception. Graduation costs have increased notably, and those costs continue to outpace the revenue generated from those fees. Obviously, there are indirect costs that the district, handles related to graduation, but based on our analysis, we recommend an increase from $30 to $50 for graduation to cover spring of 24 costs. Again, this is for next school year, so it's graduation 2024.
Any questions regarding the, I guess, just the increase of the graduation fee costs? Since we're, if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the student fees for the 23-24 school year as presented. A motion
Second.
and a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The motion passes with 5 ayes and 1 no for Mr. Janik.
Moving on to the food service meal prices for the 2023-24 school year.
We recommend increasing breakfast and lunch meal prices by $0.25 per meal next year. Student participation remains strong, and the program intends only to remain cost neutral. And so after consideration of staffing and food costs that we have predicted for the 23-24 school year, we feel this increase is fair at this time.
What is the cost for a meal?
Currently, it's $5 for lunch, so it would be $5.25.
Is that one pizza puff, two pizza puffs?
That's the full lunch.
I can tell you the orange chicken yesterday was worth $5.
Yeah.
And $5.25. That's just for the hot meal portion. So the a la carte we change accordingly based upon supply and demand in the second line. But this
Yep.
would be for the hot meal program.
So is that breakfast is $5 as well?
No, breakfast is, I believe it is currently $3 and, I think it's $3.25. Sorry, I don't, hold on one second.
It's a sign of the times.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the food service meal prices for the 23-24 school year.
Currently $3 going to, or $3.50 going to $3.75, excuse me.
Motion is second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Circling back around to the firewall and switch hardware request for proposal.
So we've got paragraph, or 11, 12, 13. Cheryl will give a quick introduction, and then we'll answer questions kind of one at a time. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, the next three agenda items were included in the presentation earlier this evening. The proposals are all planned hardware improvements that are included in the current and next year technology budget. The RFP bids and costs are summarized in the memos that are provided.
Does anyone have any further questions from the earlier discussions? I guess we'll start with the firewall and switch.
Mine's more about the response. Who monitors the firewall? Is it CDW?
Actually, the firewalls are Palo Alto. We do the management in-house, and we do have support with Palo Alto.
So if something were, you had an alert or something come through the firewall, you're notified? Or who gets notified?
It doesn't actually send alerts. We monitor the traffic on the firewall and look for problems. That is done in-house by me and my team.
Whoa, okay. Put that on your list, please.
If there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the firewall and switch hardware as presented.
Move.
Second.
Only if you open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on, the wireless controller and access points, request for proposal. Does anyone have any further questions from the discussion earlier? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the wireless controller and access points as presented.
Second.
A motion to second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. And our last action item of the evening, the Nutanix servers and storage update. Does anybody have any further questions regarding the discussion earlier? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the service and storage update as presented.
I did have a question on it, sorry. For the storage equipment, does that have the ability to be, if we're gonna buy some more things, we could store more stuff in it? Or is it just gonna hold what we're buying and then later on, we're gonna need to upgrade, and we're gonna need to buy new storage equipment, if that makes sense?
So with the Nutanix hardware, this is using what they call hyper-converged technology. So it's the power of a server for the computing power. It's the storage you would get on a typical SAN, the networking and cloud management, all in one security or one appliance. Those appliances are scalable, so we could, we started with one cluster here at Lincoln Way Central. We added a cluster over at West to do our backup solutions that I mentioned earlier. And what we're looking at with this proposal is we have some other aging hardware for older Dell servers and in some Intel servers that we would like to replace. So this is just an upgrade for other older hardware that we have on our network. And we can spin up multiple virtual servers on top of that hardware to add additional capacity, add additional programs as the needs of the district change.
I think that's good. You lost me a little bit, but,
I was going to say, repeat what you just said.
yeah, we're gonna spin some stuff up, it sounds like.
Well, if you think of it like your computer at home, you have a hard drive in your computer, you have memory. So what we're proposing is a box that has a bunch of hard drives and a bunch of memory in it, and we can add to those boxes and kind of stack them together and do what we want to do with those devices.
That's exactly what you thought, right? That's exactly what you thought.
All right. Before anybody hurts themselves, I would entertain a motion to approve the Nutanix servers and storage RFP as presented.
So moved.
Second, I should have moved that one.
We can flip it.
Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you very much, everyone. Moving on to the informational items. First up, the report of the Lincoln Way Special Education 843 Governing Board meeting held on January 24th. Deidre? Nothing to add. Thank you. FOIA requests.
We did have a couple FOIAs. They're in your backup materials for your review.
Thank you. Moving on, building and grounds.
Once again, in the backup materials for your review, if you have any questions.
Did the water, go, you go. Did the water stuff get fixed? We're good? Yeah, let's talk.
Go
Well, I
ahead,
want to
Chuck.
talk about the computers some more. Can we go back?
The water at West has been completely repaired.
Good.
The water at Central is ongoing. We dug up part of the alley in the back, found the 4-inch main that was leaking, repaired that. Then once we repaired that, then we had a leak that exploded in outside concessions. So now that is turned off. So we have to repair that. As of right now, it's turned off, but we have to repair it. So right now, we're down to going through the entire building, fixing all the toilets, sinks, closets, whatever's leaking. We're down right now to about 5 gallons a minute. We were up over 100 gallons a minute. So we're substantially down. We're still chasing a little bit at Central, but we got a lot of it accomplished. Most of the stuff at Central right now that is causing us problems are old fixtures, stuff that's continually dripping or leaking, the toilet running, that kind of stuff. So we're in the process of correcting all that.
I think this one's a good one. The electricity costs are down 37%. Is that like the actual cost of electricity, or is it usage down?
It's a little bit of both, because we have a agreement with the rate. And then right now, we're down with the electric consumption, because obviously the weather, as long as it stays level. And then we've adjusted a lot of the building management schedules throughout the district.
Anything else? Moving on, community relations.
Once again, included in your backup materials for review.
All right, asset of the month.
Asset of the month for April, planning and decision-making. Kids know how to plan ahead and make choices, have family meetings to talk about plans that affect the whole family, invite suggestions from everyone, even the youngest child. Mia would like that one. At school, let the students plan class projects, assignments, even school-wide activities. I think that's a strength of ours. As you hear from our students, they're very involved in what goes on in our buildings and in the community. Offer workshops for community members on planning and decision-making skills.
Thank you. District 210 Advisory. Beth?
Nothing to report.
All right, first reading, textbook adoption.
We have to have our textbooks on review for 30 days, so we are in the process of doing that. We have a Spanish 3 honors, a German 3 honors, and a world history and geography honors. These 3 are in the front. This fits into our budget and our 5-year forecast. For those that have been on the board here for a couple terms, you may recall there was a time where we went maybe a decade without new textbooks. And so we've now begun a cycle, and everything is on a cycle. We are current. In addition to these, we will be updating some licensures for some of our online materials as well. But once again, this is in our plan, and these are the 3 that are up for adoption this year.
Legislative report.
There's a lot of discussion in Springfield. Nothing passed through yet. We'll continue to keep an eye on things as we move through the process here.
Huh, politicians not getting anything done, huh? Who knew?
I'm sorry,
Superintendent's-
Joe, can I jump back real quick to about the textbook adoption?
Yep.
How are we supposed to review the Spanish 3 honors and German 3 honors?
Just have to trust us.
Okay. Yeah, can I get a lesson real quick on Spanish and German, please?
No, obviously, the committee of teachers will
Okay.
select the textbooks, and so it's always interesting to get all 3 schools together and to work towards that consensus. Yes.
All right. And there was nothing on the legislative report other
Correct.
than nothing going on in Springfield. Big surprise. Superintendent's district report.
Nothing to add this evening.
All right. Any other district business?
Not this time.
And COVID mitigation plan.
Just this month and next month, and then we can take that down. That's what we're being told. We'll have to see if the state follows through, but yes, that's the plan.
All right. Any correspondence?
None at this time.
All right. With that, I'd entertain a motion to go into close. Is there any action after closed session tonight?
There will be action after
Okay.
closed session.
For the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of employees, the purchase or lease of real estate, and student-related matters.
So moved?
I have a motion, a second. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous. The ayes have it. We are now in closed session. Melissa Banowski, Kathleen Connolly, Riley Christensen, Joseph Dozak, Vicky Frederickson, Kyle Graff, Helen Guerrero, Zachary Villarreal, and Kelly Weber as presented.
So moved.
Motion, do I have a second? I'll second. There's no discussion. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. And the last item we have for this evening is the motion to approve the memorandum of understanding for sick leave as presented.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Linda, if you'd open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Have any other business? for
No
you?
further business.
With that, thank you, Joe. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Chris, in case you're not here next month, rather, for the reseating. I hope you all do come.
Hope you come. Yeah.
Shake hands with whoever's going to be taking over for you. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion second. Everyone who's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.